Our coverage begins in Washington. Correspondent Kethevane Gorjestani is there. 27th time there's an incident this year at a school in the United States. And here we are, Kethevane, 10 days after the Buffalo shooting.
Yes, this seems to be repeating itself, and one of the symbols of that was the speech made by the president upon his return from that Asia trip. This was yesterday, Tuesday, and just a week before he had gone to Buffalo, New York, where he had given another speech about another mass shooting, that shooting a few days prior to that in that supermarket in Buffalo. So there have been two mass shootings with more than 10 people dead within the span of 10 days, and the president had to give two speeches within just a week. So he, when he was giving that speech, was clearly emotional, but also very angry. And he said that he didn't expect to have to do this again as a president so soon. But as you mentioned, the 27th shooting incident at a school this year in the United States, but also the 213th mass shooting in 2022. That's according to the Gun Violence Archives. 213 mass shootings this year. That's more than there have been days in 2022. So it really gives you an idea of how widespread this shooting issue and gun issue is in the United States. And that's why you heard the president yesterday be so angry. He said, "I am sick and tired of it. When are we going to act?" And it also gave a sense of the president not being able to do much about it, because there is only so much that he can, as a president, do if Congress doesn't follow suit.
Yeah, and that was something that was brought up by Golden State's Warriors coach Steve Kerr. He didn't feel like talking basketball after his game against Dallas in the playoffs Tuesday night. Let's take a listen.
When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence.
So, Kethevane, is there going to be a vote in Congress on reinstating that assault weapons ban?
It looks highly unlikely, and the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer admitted pretty much that. He said that it was unlikely that they were going to take up any type of vote, even less so an assault weapons ban, because that is not even written. There are two bills that are stuck in Congress that were passed in the House last year, in March 2021, two laws that have to do with background checks, with expanding background checks. Those two laws passed with overwhelming Democratic support in the House last year, but they were never taken up in the Senate, and that is because the Democrats know that they simply don't have the votes to pass those bills. So some people, some Democrats say, well, we know we're not going to pass it, but we want those votes to go on the record. We want those Republicans to come to the Senate floor a day after 19 children were shot and to say that they will vote against background checks. So there is a sort of difference between some Democrats. Some want the vote, others know that it's not going to happen, and so they don't see the value in that. That said, the assault weapons ban is yet another thing. The Democrats are calling their Republican counterparts to try to work together to find some common ground, some bipartisan agreement on certain elements of what I've just mentioned. An assault weapons ban, for example, an expansion of the background checks, because those are two elements that a majority of Americans actually agree with, a majority of Americans, including a lot of Republicans. A lot of Republicans actually agree with more background checks, agree with some sort of assault weapons ban, and yet the Republicans in office in Congress have so far, those who have spoken have said that this is not the way to go. More control on guns is not going to save lives.
Kethevane Gorjestani reporting from Washington. And for more, let's go to Uvalde, Texas. France 24's Pierrick Leurent is there. Pierrick, before I ask you about the latest investigation, just a word reacting to what you just heard there from Kethevane, because I know the governor of Texas, a Republican, is going to be speaking in a short while. Is there going to be any movement when it comes to issues like background checks, like bans on those lethal assault weapons?
Well, it's hard to tell, but what we know is that Governor Abbott, the governor of Texas, did say previously, with other shootings happening a few years ago, that he would be okay to implement some kind of background checks, some kind of new rules, to better control gun sales in Texas in particular. But what happened is quite the opposite. What happened is that there is less regulation. Just last year, people needed a permit to carry a gun in public spaces, and that's no longer the case. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot that politicians can say when these things happen, when those mass shootings happen, when the emotion is very strong. But we've seen in the past that not much happens after that.
Well, I can see by the yellow tape behind you that it's still very much an active investigation. Tell us what the latest is on the shooting and on this 18-year-old.
Well, definitely there's still a lot of people working behind me. There's FBI agents, local police departments. They've been active all night long on the scene to try to understand exactly what happened. We know a little bit more now that Salvador Ramos, he's 18 years old. He's a local resident, and he used to go to a local high school here. In this past few months, it looks like he didn't have a lot of interaction with his friends. He was working at a small fast food restaurant here in town. He did send pictures of the guns that he acquired just a few days before the shooting, and we don't know exactly why he came here. We know that he shot his grandmother just before coming here. He had a small car crash just next to the school, and then he tried to get in the school. That's when the police arrived and tried to shoot him, but he did managed to get inside, and he actually locked himself inside one classroom where the whole mass shooting happened. That's what we know, but the investigation is very much still going on, and the investigators are trying to understand who he was, who his friends were, and how this could have happened.
Pierrick Leurent reporting live from Uvalde, and again we'll be talking more about it in the next hour in the France 24 debate.